My last call before I gave birth went to my mother. I was standing barefoot in the wet grass outside the house I grew up in. One hand pressed under my stomach, the other gripping my phone so hard my fingers ached. Rain was dripping from my hair into my eyes. My suitcase was lying open beside the porch steps because my sister had thrown it there 10 minutes earlier. When my mother finally answered, I could hear laughter behind her, music, plates, people talking over one another. The baby shower was still going on inside, not mine, my sister's. I said, "Mom, please, something is wrong, I need help." There was a pause, then she sighed like I had interrupted her while she was doing something important. "Lena, don't start drama today." Behind her, my sister Mara's voice floated through the phone. "Tell her if she wants attention, she can call an ambulance herself." Then the line went dead. 3 minutes later, my water broke on my parents' front lawn. And 26 minutes after that, while my family was still inside cutting a cake shaped like a baby carriage, the first person who knelt beside me was not my mother, not my father, not my husband, not my sister. It was the neighbor they had spent years calling that strange woman across the street. She was holding an old camcorder, and what that camera recorded became the reason my family stopped laughing. My name is Lena Harrow, and for most of my life, I was the daughter everyone trusted when things needed fixing, but nobody chose when things needed celebrating. That is a painful place to live. You are useful enough to call in an emergency, but not precious enough to protect from one. In my family, Mara was the bright one. Not smarter, not kinder, just brighter in the way a chandelier is brighter than a desk lamp. She knew how to enter a room and make people turn. She cried prettily. She apologized softly without changing. She could hurt you, then make everyone comfort her because your reaction upset her. I was the steady one. That was what my mother called me when she needed something. "Lena, you're steady. You can handle it." I handled bills when Dad's repair business slowed down. I handled grocery runs when Mom's knees hurt. I handled Mara's college applications after she missed deadlines, her rent when she needed one clean month, and her divorce paperwork when she married a man for his family name and left him after 8 months because marriage was suffocating. I handled so much that nobody noticed I was carrying it. Then I married Noah. Noah was not rich. He was a paramedic, worked long shifts, forgot to eat lunch, and came home smelling faintly of antiseptic and rain. He was gentle in a way that did not perform for anyone. If he loved you, he made sure your tires had air and your phone charger worked. My family did not dislike him at first. They just considered him ordinary. Mara once said, "He's nice but very practical." Like practical was a disease. I loved that he was practical. When I found out I was pregnant, Noah cried before I did. He sat on the bathroom floor with the pregnancy test in his hand, laughing and wiping his face. For 1 month, I thought maybe a baby would change the way my family saw me. Maybe they would finally look at me as someone worth showing up for, not just someone who showed up. I was wrong. 2 weeks after I told them, Mara announced she was pregnant too. She was 12 weeks along. I was 9. My mother screamed. She actually screamed. She threw her arms around Mara and cried, "My first grandbaby." I was standing beside the kitchen counter, holding the little ultrasound photo I had brought to show them. My father looked at me and said, "Well, looks like double blessings." Double blessings, but only one got blessed loudly. From that day, my pregnancy became background noise. Mara's cravings became family emergencies. Mara's nursery became a group project. Mara's doctor appointments were discussed at dinner. My mother drove her to every scan, took photos in the waiting room, posted captions about becoming a grandmother. When I had my 20-week scan, Noah was called into work for a highway accident. I asked Mom if she could come. She said, "Oh, sweetheart, Mara has her gender reveal planning meeting today. You understand." I did understand. That was the problem. I understood too much. I understood that love in my family had assigned seating, and my chair was near the kitchen, close enough to serve but not close enough to be seen. There was one person who noticed Mrs. Vale. Her first name was Esther, but nobody in our neighborhood called her that. She lived across the street in a small white house with blue shutters and too many wind chimes. After her husband died, she kept mostly to herself. She wore garden gloves with holes in the fingers and recorded birds with an old handheld camcorder. My mother said she was nosy. Mara said she was creepy. I thought she was lonely. When I was little, Mrs. Vale used to give me mint candies over the fence and ask about school. When I was older, she once found me crying behind the garage after Mara blamed me for breaking Mom's crystal bowl. Mrs. Vale did not ask many questions. She just said, "People believe the loudest person until the quiet one brings proof." I was 11. I did not understand then. I would later. My due date was 5 weeks after Mara's. But babies do not read calendars. At 37 weeks, my blood pressure started acting strange. Nothing terrifying at first, just enough for my doctor to tell me to rest more and avoid stress. Avoid stress. I almost laughed when she said it. At home, Noah became stricter than my doctor. He put my feet up on pillows, made soup, checked my blood pressure twice a day, and reminded me that I was allowed to say no. My family did not like my new no. My mother called 3 times in 1 week, asking me to help finalize decorations for Mara's baby shower. I said, "Mom, I'm supposed to rest." She said, "You can rest after Saturday. This is important to your sister. My pregnancy is important too." There was silence. Then she said, "Of course it is. Don't be sensitive." Sensitive was another family word. It meant you noticed. The shower was planned at my parents' house because Mara wanted intimate family energy, which meant Mom would cook, Dad would move furniture, and I would usually do everything else. I told them I could come for 1 hour but could not help set up. Mara texted me a string of crying emojis then, "I guess I'll do everything alone while you act fragile." I stared at the message in bed while my daughter rolled under my ribs. Noah saw my face. "Don't go," he said. "I have to." "No, you don't." But I felt the old rope pull tight inside me, the rope of guilt, the rope tied around every daughter who was raised to believe peace is her responsibility. "It's 1 hour," I said. Noah had a double shift that day. He hated leaving me, but another paramedic had called out, and storms were expected. He kissed my forehead before he left. Phone on loud. "Call me if anything feels off." "I will, Lena. I promise." I meant it. The first warning came before I even reached my parents' front door. There was a banner above the porch that said, "Welcome, baby Prosley." Presley was Mara's baby name. On the porch table sat a framed ultrasound photo surrounded by pink roses. Not mine. Mara's. That was fine. It was her shower, but beside it, I noticed a small stack of envelopes in my mother's handwriting. Thank you cards for guests. The top one said, "Thank you for celebrating our first granddaughter." My chest tightened. My baby was also a girl. Mara's baby was not first. Mine was due first. I almost turned around. Then my father opened the door and said, "There she is, the auntie." The auntie, not the mother-to-be, not my daughter. Not our other granddaughter, the auntie. Inside, the house smelled like vanilla frosting, perfume, and wet coats. Women filled the living room. Cousins, neighbors, Mara's friends, church ladies, 2 people I did not know. Everyone wore soft pink or cream. The gift table was already overflowing. Mara sat on the decorated chair near the fireplace like a queen receiving visitors. She wore a white dress and a sash that said Mama in gold letters. When she saw me, her smile stayed on, but her eyes sharpened. "You came," she said. "Of course. You look tired. I am tired." She touched her belly with both hands. "Well, pregnancy is hard for everyone." A few women laughed politely. I felt a tightening low in my back. I told myself it was from standing. My mother swept toward me, carrying a tray of little sandwiches. "Lena, good you're here. Can you check the drink station? The lemonade is too sweet. I'm not helping today, remember?" Her smile froze. "Just taste it, Mom." She leaned closer. "Please don't embarrass me in front of people." There it was. The oldest trick, make my boundary the embarrassment, never the demand. I went to the kitchen. I tasted the lemonade. It was fine. On the counter, I saw a pale yellow folder under a stack of napkins. My name was written on the tab Lena. I pulled it slightly free. Inside were printed pages from an online document service. At the top, in bold letters, it said Temporary Infant Care Offers. My pulse jumped. I read faster. The document named Mara as temporary caretaker for my baby in case I became medically unstable postpartum. It listed my parents as witnesses. There was a blank space for my signature. For a moment, the room blurred medically unstable Mara as caretaker, my child. I heard footsteps and slid the folder back under the napkins. My mother entered. "What are you doing?" "Looking for cups." She looked at the counter, then at me. "There by the sink." I nodded. My daughter shifted hard inside me, like even she knew something had changed. The second warning came during the gift opening. Mara unwrapped tiny dresses, blankets, bottles, a stroller that cost more than my first car. My mother cried at every third gift. Someone gave Mara a silver baby bracelet engraved with Presley. Then Aunt Celia, my father's sister, walked in late with a gift bag and a confused expression. "Oh," she said, looking around. "I brought 2 gifts. I thought this was for both girls." The room went still in that tiny social way where everyone pretends not to hear. My mother laughed too quickly. "We decided to keep today focused on Mara. Lena doesn't like fuss." That was news to me. Aunt Celia looked at me. My throat tightened, but I said, "I was not asked." Mara's smile vanished. "Are you serious right now?" I just answered her. My mother set down a plate. "Lena, don't." Aunt Celia frowned. "Linda, both your daughters are pregnant. Why would you not include Lena?" My father stood near the doorway, hands in his pockets, eyes on the carpet. Mara's voice wobbled. "I knew this would happen. I told you she would make it about her." I actually laughed once. A small, shocked sound. "Mara, I didn't plan your shower. I didn't put up one photo of my baby. I didn't even know Aunt Celia thought this was shared." Mara's eyes filled immediately. "You always do this. You wait until people are happy. Then you make them feel guilty." My mother put her arm around her. I looked at my father. "Dad," he sighed. "Lena, today is your sister's day. Let it go." Let it go, another family prayer. I stood there with a contraction beginning low and deep. And I finally understood that if I dropped to the floor, they might still ask me to do it quietly. I went upstairs to the bathroom, not to cry. Not yet. I locked the door and called Noah. No answers. He was likely on a call. I texted. Something is wrong. Contractions, maybe. Also found document. Call me ASAP. Then I called my doctor's after hours line and left a message. My hands shook as I washed them. When I looked in the mirror, I saw a woman I barely recognized. Pale, wet-eyed. Tired of begging for basic tenderness, in the hallway outside, Mara and my mother were talking in low voices. She saw something, Mara whispered. My mother said, then get her to sign before she leaves. I froze. Mara said, she won't if Noah is there. He isn't here. Mom, if she starts making accusations, she's emotional. Everyone can see that. The floor felt unsteady beneath me. That yellow folder was not a misunderstanding. It was a plan. I opened the bathroom door. They both startled. For 1 second, none of us performed. Then my mother smiled. There you are. Feeling better? I looked at Mara. What is the infant care authorization? Her face changed first. My mother's hand tightened on the stair rail. It's just precautionary, Mom said. Precautionary for what? You've been stressed. Noah works long hours. Mara offered to help if you had postpartum difficulties. Mara offered to take legal authority over my baby. Mara's eyes hardened. Don't twist it. Everyone knows you've been overwhelmed. Everyone. My mother lowered her voice. Lena, you have always struggled with resentment. We don't want that affecting the baby. That sentence was so cruelly calm that it almost worked. For one horrible second, I questioned myself. Was I unstable? Was I making too much of it? Was I the problem? Then another contraction hit stronger. I grabbed the wall. My mother looked annoyed before she looked worried. Are you doing that on purpose? I stared at her. What? Mara stepped back. Oh my God, Lena, I whispered. I think I'm in labor. My mother's face went blank. Then she looked toward the living room, toward her guests, toward the cake and gifts and perfectly arranged celebration. Not now, she said. Not are you okay, not sit down, not let me call someone. Not now. That was when something in me finally stopped asking permission. I need my hospital bag, I said. It's in my car. My mother said, we'll call after the gifts. No, I need to go now. Mara folded her arms. You can't stand one afternoon without stealing attention? I'm having contractions. You're always dramatic. I moved toward the stairs. Mara stepped in front of me. Where is the folder? I asked. My mother's face tightened. What folder? The one with my name on it. She said nothing. I went downstairs. People turned as I entered the living room. I was breathing through pain now, one hand on the wall. Aunt Celia stood. Lena? I need to leave. Mara followed behind me, her voice suddenly sweet for the room. She's fine. She's just upset. I reached the kitchen counter and pulled the yellow folder from under the napkins. My mother rushed in. Give me that. The room had gone quiet. I held it against my chest. No, Mara's voice dropped. You're embarrassing yourself. I looked at her. Really looked at her, my sister. The girl I had defended in school. The woman whose rent I had paid. The person who had been trained to believe my life was storage space for her needs. I'm leaving, I said. My father finally came into the kitchen. Lena, hand your mother the papers. No, don't make this worse. It is worse. Another contraction bent me forward. Aunt Celia moved toward me, but my mother blocked her without seeming to. I'll take her, Aunt Celia said. She needs a hospital. My mother snapped. She needs to calm down. Then Mara reached for the folder. I pulled back. She grabbed my suitcase by the front door, the one with my hospital things inside, and dragged it onto the porch. What are you doing? I said. If you want to leave, leave, she said. Mara, stop, Aunt Celia said. But Mara opened the front door and threw my suitcase down the steps. It burst open on the wet lawn. Baby clothes, nursing pads, a tiny blanket, my hospital papers, all scattered across the grass. The guests gasped. My mother said Mara. Not with horror, with warning. Like Mara had shown too much. I walked onto the porch after my things. Rain struck my face. Behind me, my father said, let her cool off. Cool off. I was 37 weeks pregnant, contracting barefoot because I had kicked off my shoes upstairs when my ankles swelled, standing in rain while my daughter's first blanket soaked in the grass. I turned back. Someone drive me to the hospital. My mother stood in the doorway. Not until you stop this. I took out my phone. I called Noah again. No answer. I called 911. But the line clicked strangely and dropped. The storm had been affecting service all afternoon. I called my mother because some childish part of me still believed that if I sounded scared enough, she would become my mother again. She answered from inside the house. I could see her through the doorway, phone to her ear, facing away from the guests. Mom, please. Something is wrong. I need help. Then came her sigh. Lena, don't start drama today, Mara's voice in the background. Tell her if she wants attention, she can call an ambulance herself. The line went dead. I stared at the phone. Then my water broke. There are moments so terrifying that the world becomes strangely detailed. I remember the exact color of the grass, dark green and shining. I remember the little yellow duck printed on the baby blanket near my foot. I remember the porch light flickering even though it was afternoon. I remember saying, no, 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 not because I did not want my baby, but because I could not understand how she could be coming into a world where the door behind me was full of people who knew my name and still would not open it. I lowered myself onto the lawn. The pain was different now, bigger, consuming. It took my voice and turned it into something animal. The front door opened. For one hopeful second I thought someone was coming. My father stepped onto the porch, saw me on the grass, and froze. Linda, he called. My mother appeared behind him, her face drained. Mara pushed between them. Oh my God, she whispered. Aunt Celia tried to rush past, but my father held out an arm. Call an ambulance, she shouted. I tried, I gasped. Signal. Then a voice came from across the street. Lena, Mrs. Vale was running toward us in a purple raincoat, moving faster than I would have thought possible. In one hand she held an umbrella. In the other her old camcorder swung from its strap, still recording. She dropped to her knees beside me. Look at me, sweetheart. I can't. Yes, you can. I called emergency services from my landline. They're coming. Breathe with me. My mother said from the porch. Esther, we have it handled. Mrs. Vale did not even look at her. No, Linda, you absolutely do not. That was the first time in my life I heard someone speak to my mother, like she was not in charge of reality. Mrs. Vale took off her raincoat and spread it beneath me. Aunt Celia finally shoved past my father and came down to the lawn with towels. One of Mara's friends, a nurse I later learned was named Kelsey, ran out too, face pale but focused. I'm labor and delivery, Kelsey said. I didn't know. They said she was upset. Mrs. Vale looked at her, then help. Everything became fragments. Kelsey checking. Aunt Celia holding my hand. Mrs. Vale telling me to keep my eyes open. My mother crying on the porch, but not coming closer. Mara saying, this can't be happening. Over and over, like Berth was rude for arriving without her approval. My phone rang somewhere in the grass. Noah. Mrs. Vale answered it and put him on speaker. Lena? Lena, I sobbed when I heard his voice. No, baby, where are you? Mom's lawn. What? Mrs. Vale leaned close to the phone. This is Esther Vale from across the street. She is in active labor. Ambulance is on the way. You need to meet at County General or come here if you're close. Noah's voice changed into paramedic mode, but I could hear fear underneath it. Lena, listen to me. I'm coming. You are not alone. Do you hear me? You are not alone. I held on to that sentence like a rope. You are not alone. The next contraction tore through me. Kelsey said, baby's coming now. My mother made a sound from the porch. No, Mara said. No, she can't. Mrs. Vale snapped, Mara, be quiet or go inside. And then my daughter was born on the lawn of the house, where I had spent my whole life trying to be loved properly. Not in a peaceful room, not with music, not with my mother brushing hair from my face, in rain, in grass. In the hands of strangers and one aunt brave enough to disobey. My daughter did not cry immediately. That silence was the longest silence of my life. Kelsey rubbed her back with a towel. Come on, baby. Come on. I could not breathe. Then a small, sharp cry cut through the rain. I broke, Mrs. Vale cried too. Aunt Celia covered her mouth. Even my father sank onto the porch step like his legs had stopped working. Kelsey placed my daughter against my chest. She's here, she said. She's strong. Noah arrived 2 minutes before the ambulance. He ran across the lawn in his uniform, face white with fear. When he saw us, he fell to his knees beside me. I'm here, he kept saying. I'm here, I'm sorry, I'm here. You were working, I whispered. I should have been here. You came. He looked at our daughter and started crying. She's perfect. Behind him, my mother finally came down one step. Lena, she said, voice shaking, let me see her. Noah turned his head slowly. I had never seen that look on his face. Not anger exactly, something colder, cleaner. No, he said. My mother flinched. I'm her grandmother. He looked at the soaked suitcase, the scattered baby clothes, the yellow folder still under my arm, the camcorder in Mrs. Vale's hand. The guests gathered silently in the doorway. Not today, he said. At the hospital, everything moved quickly. Doctors checked my daughter, checked me, asked questions, took notes. My blood pressure was dangerously high. I had lost more blood than they liked, but we were stable. Stable, another word that felt different after you nearly lost everything. Noah stayed beside me with our daughter tucked against his chest. We named her Eliza Grace. Eliza because I had loved the name since childhood. Grace because she arrived where there had been none and somehow brought her own. A hospital social worker came in that evening. Her name was Priya. She had kind eyes and a clipboard. We need to discuss what happened at the residence, she said gently. My mother had already called the hospital. Of course she had. She told them I had become hysterical at the shower, refused help, and wandered outside. She said the family was deeply concerned about my mental state and wanted to ensure the baby's safety. I listened from the bed, numb. Noah's jaw tightened. Priya said, there is also mention of a temporary infant care document. I reached toward my bag. Noah handed me the yellow folder. I gave it to Priya. I did not request that. I did not agree to it. I found it at the shower. Priya read silently. Her expression shifted. Who prepared this, my mother and sister? Did they ask you to sign it? They planned to, Noah said. They threw her hospital bag outside during active labor. Priya looked up. Do you have any witness confirmation? Before I could answer, there was a knock. Mrs. Vale stood in the doorway with her camcorder in a plastic grocery bag. I do, she said. My mother had called her strange for years. That night, the strange woman saved my truth. Mrs. Vale's footage was not cinematic. It shook. Rain blurred parts of it. But it showed enough. It showed me on the porch asking for help. It showed Mara throwing the suitcase. It showed my mother refusing to let Aunt Celia pass. It showed me on the lawn after my water broke. It showed my family standing in the doorway while Mrs. Vale crossed the street. It showed Noah's voice on speaker. It showed my mother asking to see the baby only after the ambulance lights reflected across the windows. Priya watched without interrupting. When the video ended, she said, I'm going to document this carefully. 2 days later, my parents tried to visit. Noah was sleeping in the chair. Eliza was in the bassinet beside me, wrapped like a tiny burrito. I was half awake when a nurse came in. There are 3 visitors asking to come back. Linda, Robert, and Mara Harrow. My body reacted before my mind did. My heart pounded. My hands went cold. Noah woke instantly. No, he said. The nurse looked at me. I swallowed. No visitors. She nodded like that was the most normal thing in the world. It helped. 10 minutes later, my phone lit up. Mom. Lena, this has gone too far. Dad, your mother is devastated. Mara, I hope you're happy. Everyone thinks I'm some monster now. Then Mara sent, you ruined my shower and made my baby's day about you. I looked at Eliza. Her tiny mouth moved in sleep. For the first time, I did not reply. That was the beginning of my real labor, not the physical one. The emotional one, delivering myself from a family that had mistaken access for love. The fallout came quietly at first. Then all at once, Aunt Celia told the truth to relatives. Kelsey, the labor nurse from the shower, gave a written witness statement. Mrs. Vale provided a copy of the footage to the hospital and, later, to my attorney. Yes, attorney, because 3 weeks after Eliza was born, my mother and Mara filed a family welfare concern claiming Noah and I were isolating the baby and that I had shown unstable behavior before delivery. They attached the temporary care form as evidence of prior concerns. They did not realize that bringing that document into the light would burn them first. My attorney, Denise Rowe, was a small woman with silver hair and the calmest voice I had ever heard. She reviewed everything in silence. The yellow folder, the text messages, the hospital notes, the footage, the witness statements. Then she looked at me. Lena, people who rely on emotional control often panic when boundaries become legal. What happens now? We answer with evidence. Evidence, not screaming, not begging, not explaining my whole life to people committed to misunderstanding it. Evidence. Denise filed a response that included the video, the forged intent document, my medical records confirming active labor and high blood pressure, and Noah's work logs proving he had been unreachable on emergency calls until minutes before he arrived. The concern was dismissed, but that was not the real consequence. The real consequence came from my father. He called me one evening when Eliza was 6 weeks old. I almost did not answer. Noah said, you don't have to. I know. That was why I answered. Because for once, I knew I had a choice. Dad's voice sounded older. Lena, what do you need? He breathed in shakily. I watched the video. I said nothing. All of it. Still, I said nothing. I didn't remember it that way. That sentence made me close my eyes. Of course he didn't. People rarely remember themselves as cowards. He continued. I thought you were arguing. I thought your mother had it under control. I thought. His voice broke. I thought wrong. Eliza made a soft sound against my shoulder. Dad started crying. I saw you asking for help. I saw myself standing there. There was the truth, not my mother, not Mara, my father seeing himself. I don't know how to live with that, he whispered. I looked down at my daughter's tiny fingers curled against my shirt. You start by not asking me to make it easier for you. He was quiet a long time, then he said, I'm sorry. I wanted that apology for 30 years. When it finally came, it did not feel like victory. It felt like finding an old letter after the house burned down. I said, I believe you're sorry. I'm not ready to let you near my daughter. I understand. I don't think you do. But maybe one day you will. He accepted that. My mother did not. She sent long messages about forgiveness, family, grandchildren needing grandparents, how childbirth made women emotional, how Mara was suffering from anxiety too, how I was cruel to deny them joy. I saved every message. I did not answer. Mara posted vague quotes online about being painted as a villain in someone else's birth story. For 3 weeks, people commented hearts and prayers. Then someone leaked the truth, not the video. I never posted that. I would not turn my daughter's birth into public entertainment. But Aunt Celia replied to one of Mara's posts with one sentence. Lena gave birth on the lawn while you stood in the doorway. The post disappeared within an hour. After that, the family tone changed, not because they became better, because the audience did. People stopped asking me to forgive and started asking them what happened. Mara's friends who had been at the shower stopped liking her posts. My mother was removed from the church nursery volunteer rotation pending discernment. My father moved into the guest room for a while. I heard this from Aunt Celia, not from him and me. I learned how quiet peace can be when no one is allowed to enter your home just because they share your blood. Noah and I spent those first months exhausted and grateful. Eliza had dark hair that stuck straight up after baths. She hated being swaddled unless Noah did it. She made a tiny, furious face before sneezing. Every ordinary thing felt sacred because of how close we came to losing the ordinary. Mrs. Vale became Aunt Esther. There was no formal ceremony. One day Noah opened the door and said, "Aunt Esther's here," and that was it. She brought soup, folded laundry without asking where things went, and never once demanded to hold the baby. That is how I knew I could trust her. People who truly love a child do not treat access like a trophy. When Eliza was 4 months old, Aunt Esther gave me the camcorder. "I made copies," she said, "for your attorney for safekeeping, but this one should be yours." I held it carefully. "I don't know if I ever want to watch it again." "You don't have to," she said. "Proof doesn't always need to be replayed. Sometimes it just needs to exist." I keep that camcorder in a locked box with Eliza's hospital bracelet, the yellow folder, and a photo Noah took the morning we brought her home. Not because I want to live in the pain, but because I refuse to let anyone rewrite it. A year later, on Eliza's first birthday, we had a small party in our backyard, nothing fancy. A lemon cake, paper butterflies. A few friends, Aunt Celia, Aunt Esther, Kelsey from the shower, and Noah's station crew who treated Eliza like their tiny mascot. My father sent a gift by mail. A wooden music box shaped like a cottage. Inside was a note. "I am still learning what love should have done. Happy birthday, Eliza. Grandpa Robert." I did not invite him, but I kept the note, maybe one day. Maybe not. My mother sent nothing. Mara sent a text at midnight. "Mara, Presley and Eliza should know each other. Don't punish the children." I looked at the message while Eliza slept against Noah's shoulder, frosting on her little sleeve. For once, I did not feel anger. I felt distance. I typed back one sentence. "Children are not punished by being kept away from people who harmed their mother." Then I blocked her. That night, after everyone left, I stood barefoot in my own backyard. The grass was dry and warm under my feet. Noah was inside washing cake plates. Aunt Esther's wind chimes sounded faintly across the street. I thought about the lawn at my parents' house. For months that memory had been a wound, rain, pain, a door full of faces. My daughter's first cry rising through the storm. But standing there 1 year later, I understood something I could not understand then. Eliza was not born in abandonment. She was born in revelation. She showed me, with one terrifying arrival, exactly who would stand in the doorway and who would cross the street. That is not a small gift. Sometimes the worst day of your life introduces you to the truth with no disguise left on it. So if you have ever made one final call to someone who should have loved you, and they let it ring or answered only to dismiss your pain, I hope you hear me clearly. Their refusal is not your worth. Their silence is not your sentence. And the people who ignore you when you are breaking do not get automatic access when you are healing. Family is not proven by blood at a party. It is proven in the rain. It is proven when your voice shakes and someone still comes. It is proven by the person who kneels beside you when everyone else is worried about appearances. My daughter will grow up knowing that. She will know love is not a locked door. Love crosses the lawn.